segment. This down here would be images. Putting a slash mark here might not be the best idea. Okay, now we can go and step over to Interface Builder, and we should be able to go hold down the Control key, and oops, actually it needs to be from the Files owner down to Image View, and sure enough, in Outlets, I see my image. And again, I'm not seeing the instance variable name for my segment because, you know, when you do this, it checks to see in Xcode what instance variable names you have for only for UI image views. Okay, so it's nice and simple like that. Okay, now we can step back over here to Xcode. If we do want to just kind of test this out really quick, let's come down here and let's change this to, I'm gonna move the image. Okay, and we're gonna write my image dot center equals, then we just put CG point make. I just had to edit the file a little bit there. I kept putting in 0 here and forgetting. I was like publishing, and then I kept forgetting that I was setting the center point. I kept thinking 0 was going to be take the image to the, you know, the far left side to 0. So anyway, the center point, actually, if I want this to be in the middle now, should be 160 again, which I could have just looked over here. And we'll set it to a little bit lower this time, maybe like 360. Okay, so yep, a little edit. All right, so publish it out, and sure enough, click on that, and sure, yep, it moves it right down to the bottom. Okay, let's do something a little bit different though. I'm going to take another image. Okay, so it's one that I've got on the desktop here. I'm going to put that into my artwork folder. Again, copy items into the destination folder, and sure enough, you can see that it does copy that in there. Actually, it's this one, and this is a black and white version of the logo. And this time around, what we're going to do is wipe this out, and we're going to write image. Oh gosh, I hope I can remember the code for this. I think it is UI image, and then image named, and then we put @ quote. We just repeat back the actual name of it. And don't forget your closing bracket. Let's go ahead and build it and see if that works. You know what? Somehow this happened again. I need to switch this. I don't know how this, occasionally it keeps reverting back to this other, well, basically put iPhone simulator goes into iPad mode. All right, let's try this one more time. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Click on second, and sure enough, now it changed it. Let's, I think now that we've demonstrated, oops, I think now that we demonstrated the overlap, it doesn't need to overlap like this. All right, close that. And let's get a little bit fancier with it now. Let's put in an if statement here which tests whether or not the segment state is at the first or the second, and then we will show the black or white image accordingly. But actually, let's flip back over here to Interface Builder one more time. Instead of having this say first and second, let's title this color, okay, and then click on segment 1, and this will be black and white. Let me just widen that out a little bit. We don't also need, of course, this is just testing around using another method. We really don't need to do any of this inside of this other method here. Let's comment that out and then just write if my segment dot selected segment index equals 0. And 0 is always going to be whatever your first segment is that on there is. And keep in mind too that these segmented objects, you can have tons of different segments in there, not just 1 and 2. Could be 20, who knows. So they're always going to start with the number 0. So that's going to be the first one, and then we do our opening and closing bracket right there. And then in this case, let's just go ahead and cut this out of here entirely. So we'll write, actually this was the color one. And then we can put an else statement, else. All right. And sure enough, there we go. Of course, that else statement you wouldn't want to use if you had more than one segment, because then any of the other ones could trigger that as well. So let's just copy this part, paste it in there, and then we could just write 1. Okay, so 1's going to be the second segment on there. And if you want to just test it, it's going to give you the same result. Close that out. Let's do this though. Let's go ahead and add in that third segment. So I'm going to go back over here, interface builder, and you see segments 3. Sure enough, I now have an extra empty one out there. And let's go down to segment 2. For this one, let's have a little bit more fun. We'll call this fade out. How about that? And let's widen this a little bit. These segments are obviously really nice for any sort of preference where you have, or just any sort of preference at all. I was about to say, when you have more than one option, what preference is there that there's not more than one option? But definitely I use them quite a bit when I was setting up this game. And actually, let me scroll down here. You can see that these are all the preferences that I had set up, and then you can also include into that segment little tiny image icons as well. So for the speed, originally I had like 1, 2, 3, and then I realized that's silly. People don't know if 1 is fastest or slowest. So I included a little turtle icon, and the same thing obviously for the zoom as well. Gosh, am I losing my voice or what? So anyway, let's go and fade out this image, and then we'll set that to 2, in which case let's grab this, paste that in there. And you know what, I'm a big fan of breathing room in code, so let's give ourselves a little bit more, there we go, some air to breathe. And this time around, let's just run with a fade out. Okay, so we are going to write UI view begin, and hey, look at that, it starts filling us in already. Begin animations. This is just kind of an arbitrary name that you can give it. So let's just call this fade out logo. Again, doesn't really matter what you're going to write in there. I think probably it would be, I don't know. I haven't actually found a reason for where you end up using that string, maybe to identify it later in some other context. And then context nil, that's another one I don't really know that much about. UI view, set animation, not delay, although delay is an option there. You can delay it in the beginning, but duration, and this is pretty simple, 2, it's just for 2 seconds. Again, do your semicolon at the end of that. And continuing setting this up, UI view, set animation, just hit return to go to the next kind of breakpoint for what they could autofill this in as. Delegate, we're just going to set this as self. I haven't actually come across any examples of where that's not going to be self. And then UI view, set animation, repeat count, that's going to be 0. You could